Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes on the Rebirth server. We are with Quintessence last, our level 33 brute, who has 2.3 million XP earned, 134,000 to go to get to the next level, and nearly 30 million influence. And no sooner did I finish doing the junk missions for Peter Stemets than he gave me a story arc. And so our mission is to find a guy named Edgar Torvald who was recently abducted by the Circle of Thorns. So this looks like it's going to be a circle storyline. Maybe this is the Library of Lost Souls. I forgot all about that. That's another story arc I actually really like the story of. Not a huge fan of going up against the Circle generally because of the Spectra demons, but at this level we should be facing rather more behemoths than demons, hopefully. And once you get into the demons, I actually don't mind them when you're solo because their invincibility doesn't make them completely unhittable the way it does when you're a mastermind with 6 or so pets, or when you're in a group. But soloing against them is okay. Didn't have a lot of trouble with them as Silver Phoenix. We shouldn't have a lot of trouble with this character, although Silver Phoenix does have Focus Chi, which this character does not. Funny story about Silver Phoenix. So the Rebirth server has posted onto test something they call the issue 25 changes to super reflexes. Based on the details, I don't believe that these changes have ever been implemented in the Homecoming servers, which are now on issue 27 or something. So I don't know. I guess the issue 25s are different. But according to the patch notes on the test server, one of the changes is that Practice Brawler is being switched from a click power to a toggle. I absolutely hate this. As I've said before, I think Practice Brawler is superior to the toggles because when you recharge it, with enough recharge enhancers, Silver Phoenix's, for example, is recharges in a minute and lasts for 2. So for half of the time, literally 1 out of every 2 minutes, she has double status protection. That's awesome, and I want to keep it. It's better than a toggle. I can perma it, and it works great. So I don't like that they're making that change. They are giving it some additional absorb abilities, and so I'm sure that'll help a little bit with the defenses. But I don't like that it's not going to be a click power anymore, and I'm pretty frustrated about that. And then with Elude, which is the signature power of the set, right? That's your oh crap power. They're reducing the recharge time, which is great, but they're also reducing the duration, which is horrible. It's much better if it stays a long recharge time and lasts a long time. They're also making it be able to absorb and do some other things, so it's going to be more fully featured power rather than just increasing defense. And I like that the idea perhaps of having it be more fully featured, although I certainly didn't need any more features with it. But I absolutely hate the idea that it's going to last less than the minute or so that it lasts in the original formulation of the power, because when it crashes, you're screwed. You don't want it to crash faster than a minute. I don't understand why anyone would think that was a good idea at all, and I highly oppose both of those changes. This probably means that I will not be playing a Super Reflex Scrapper on this server, although I might be willing to play one. I'll certainly still be willing to play Silver Phoenix on Homecoming. They have not actually logged into Homecoming to make sure that they hadn't implemented these changes on their server, and they have not. Thank goodness. I just hope Rebirth doesn't give them ideas, because I really don't like those changes. Not a fan. I like Super Reflexes the way it was. I thought it was a great power set. Yes, it was a one-trick pony in the sense that everything was based on defense, but since everything was based on defense, it was really good at dodging everything. Best status protection in the game between Practice Brawler being able to double up when you recharge and it reactivates before it's expired, and also it can't be turned off, right, the way a toggle might potentially be able to be. And even beyond that, even more importantly, because you have all these great defenses and you have great Practice Brawler, you literally never get mezzed. I don't think I saw Silver Phoenix get mezzed a single time once all of those powers were in and she had her SOs. And I played hundreds of hours, never got mezzed. Best mezz defense in the game. And they're going to screw with it. I'm not thrilled about that. Um, so I won't be playing any Super Reflex on this server, I guess. It's unfortunate. And I really don't like Elude being on a shorter duration. That's terrible. I like the duration of Elude. It was just enough of a duration that you could kick the butt of a boss or an elite boss before it expired. So they cut the duration in half, I believe. So it's going from, I think, a minute to half a minute. I mean, that's just not enough time. So I don't like that at all. Now, it may be that they tweaked the recharge, perhaps. They may have tweaked the recharge to make it so that you could perma it if you 6-slot it or something and use hasten. I'm not really sure, but since you can't do perma hasten anymore, I'm not sure how that would work. I also never needed it to be permanent, right? I just want it to be there as a panic power so that when I need it, it saves me from the bosses and the elite bosses. And you know, I screwed something up here. You know, all the talking and everything else. I screwed something up. This is a +2 mission, guys. I shouldn't be doing +2 against Circle of Thorns. We're doing okay. But yeah, Circle at +2 with +3s as a possibility is going to be really awful. And I'm lucky I did not aggro this group. I just love doing an AoE and hitting everybody. Yeah, so I'm not super happy about those changes, and hopefully it'll take a really long time for them to get over here from the test server. Not that that probably matters that much, since I'm not planning on making a Super Reflex Scrapper anytime soon. I mean, I do have one, but she's only level 2. And I made her up because I thought I might want to redo Silver Phoenix at some point here. She's called Azure Phoenix because Silver Phoenix was taken. Although somebody suggested, I think it was Kievar, I could have named her Argent Phoenix, which also would work. Is this Edgar? Are we too late? I bet we're too late. Yep, we're too late. He's dead. The body of Edgar Torval. There's no sign of violence, but Edgar seems to be dead. Poor Edgar. Alright, we're going to hightail it out of there because it's a mistake to do +2 against the Circle of Thorns. Just because of all their debuffing, it's just such a pain. Let's go ahead and talk to Peter and see what he says. He says, there was nothing you could have done, Quintessence last. Torval was probably dead before anyone knew he was missing. He did leave a clue, though. He scratched, here we go, a rough map on the inside of his jacket. This magic library, he indicates, might be worth checking out. It's got to be the Library of Lost Souls. Yep. Okay, this is a great story arc. Well, I've talked to all the experts on Ore and Bega, and I've had them take a look at the map Torvald left when he died. I think it may be possible to reach the map's magic library. If Torvald thought the place was important enough to record with his last moments, it bears investigation. Are you ready? Yeah, we're ready. But before we do that, we are going to go and reduce our difficulty to +1. I'm not going to drop it to +0. I don't think that's necessary. I think we are going to drop it to +1. In the future, you know, some levels above here, when we get to our 40s, we won't need to do this because our character will have so many enhancement slots full of accuracies and a couple of sets that will be in really good shape. But right now the sets aren't helping us with any sort of accuracy bonus, and most of our powers do have a single accuracy on them, but just that. And so we really need to wait until we get some more sets before we can try to do +2 circle, just because of all the debuffing that they do to us. So let's go ahead and go to TALOS Island, and we're going to go over to the statue of the Minotaur guy, and that's where the mission, not the mission difficulty setting guy, the field analyst or whatever it is. That's where he is. You know, if they want to copy something from Homecoming, what they ought to copy is that you can set that by just clicking over here, so that you don't have to run over to the agent every time, because that's a bit of a pain. And it's an unnecessary time sink. It's just a setting. But here we are. So we're going to go back to +1. Now we might get stuck with +2 in this mission because it's pretty close, and oh gosh, I've been over to the Minotaur so many times. It's the first time I got the badge. I think I even went over there on video at one point and said I think there's a badge over here and didn't get it, but that's fine. So a friend of mine, my best friend, is, as I've said here before, big fan of Critical Role. And at one point I had watched more of Season 2 than he had because he went back and started watching Season 1. And so he started with Season 2. I think they watched like 20 episodes or so. And then his wife was like, we really should go back and watch Season 1. So they went back and watched all of Season 1, which is like 120 episodes or something, 115. And the current show is something on like 123, 4 at the time of this recording. Might be 125 now because tonight's a Thursday. And so he's watched 107 or 8 of the new one and 115 or whatever the old one. The guy's watched like 223 episodes. Big fan of that show. He loves it. He likes it a lot, and big fan of the characters. As I've said here, I watched it for a while. I didn't watch the first season. I watched the second season for about 60 episodes, and I just got kind of tired of it. And I was ODing on D&D. So I started watching a couple different streams. One is Saving Throw. The channel has a group called the Wildcards. And the Wildcards were, I think they used to play originally Deadlands, which is a Savage Worlds game. And now they're playing, or as of last year, what I've been watching is the first season of, they have 3 or 4 seasons of it, Wildcards ETU, East Texas University, which is, again, Savage Worlds, been sort of a horror setting, which I'm finding quite enjoyable, especially since I've been reading a lot of Lovecraft, although they're not really doing Lovecraftian horror. They're doing some weird stuff that Lovecraft would probably have enjoyed. And it's been a lot of fun to watch. They're actually really good. I think the GM, whatever you want to call him, the dean of the university, the guy that runs the game, the referee, is awesome, Jordan Callerman. And all 4 of the players are a lot of fun to watch, and I'm having a good time with that. But as I've said, I've also become interested in the Cthulhu mythos and Lovecraftian stuff. And so I've been looking around to try and find a stream of Call of Cthulhu. Unfortunately, that's a lot harder to find. You can find a lot of streams of it, but a lot of them are like 1-shots or 2-shots. I don't know if it's just because, Call of Cthulhu is such a deadly game or what. But what I really want to do is find a nice meaty campaign that I can watch. There are 1 or 2 of them out there that are just, I don't need it to be super theatrical the way some of the streams are. But I need it to be at least, watchable, and the audio has to be, audible and stuff. And a couple of them are pretty bad in the sense that they're a little older. They were done a few years ago, and the video is very jerky and very low frames per second, and the audio goes in and out, and the video freezes sometimes. And I can understand if that happens once in a while, but I'm not down for watching an entire series of 20 or 30 episodes of that. So I found one that I don't know how long. I think it only goes like 9 episodes, but it's still somewhat of a campaign. I just want to kind of get the sense of not how does the game play in a 1-shot, but how would it play if the characters stick around for multiple sessions. How do they level up and things like that. And so it looks pretty interesting. We'll see. This particular one's doing one of the published campaigns. And so that'll give me a little bit of insight into it, although I don't want to go too far into a published campaign, just on the off chance that it's almost an impossibility, but someday, maybe, someone I know decides to run a Call of Cthulhu game and uses that campaign. I don't want spoilers. So I don't want to go too far down the road in it. Just like I've tried not to learn much about the 5th edition D&D campaign books, the adventures that they have. They're really more campaigns, even though they call them adventures. And I've tried to avoid knowledge of those because I don't know if someday one of my friends is going to want to run me through one of those campaigns. In fact, I was thinking about potentially soloing one of them using DM yourself, which at this point I think I'm probably not going to do for other reasons. But when my best friend started playing Waterdeep, he started playing Princess of the Apocalypse, he started playing Rime of the Frost Maiden, and as I mentioned in a much earlier episode, I've been sort of bugging about which one he likes the best, and he's really talked more about the idiosyncrasies of what the DMs who are running those games have done versus sort of objectively how good the individual modules are, or adventures, whatever you want to call them. And so it's hard to tell from what he said which ones are good. But one of my first thoughts, and one of the reasons I've been bugging him about it, is I thought, well, if he's playing in it, then like we won't be able to play in it, right? Because if somebody tries to run it, he'll have to say, but I've already played Waterdeep, or I've already played Princess of the Apocalypse. So I thought, well, I could actually read these now or play them. And then I realized, well, wait a minute, what if he runs it, right? In fact, the most logical thing potentially for him to do if he wants to GM, unless he wants to make up his own stuff, is of those three adventures, whichever one he thinks is the coolest and the best, since he's played it now and he knows it front to back, then he runs it for us. Wouldn't spoil it for him because he's already played it. And gee, I thought this was something you could open, but I guess not. And so that like that makes it so much easier as a GM if you've actually played the adventure before. Then you can almost wing it. You don't have to do as much prep work because you already know everything. You already know what the mysteries are, what the mysteries are and how they're solved and who the leader is and how he gets beaten, and you've watched a party of adventurers go through it. So like you know what to expect the players to think because you've already seen what they think and you've already thought it yourself because you were one of the players. And so I realized actually, it's actually not safe for me to play one of these, because in case he ever decides to run something, which who knows if he ever will, probably not, because he seems to want to play and not DM, and you can't make people DM for you, and you shouldn't try. But he's probably not going to do it. I still have to leave open the possibility that he might want to run us through Princess of the Apocalypse, which so far seems to be the one he likes the best, at least in terms of how the adventure is structured. But he hasn't gotten that far into it. It's the one he's played the least sessions of, so like who knows. But yeah, he could very well choose one of those adventures just because he already knows it really well, and therefore it wouldn't be a lot of work. Now, in terms of who's going to DM next, I think there are two other people who are much more likely to DM than my best friend, for a couple reasons. One is my best friend doesn't seem to want to DM, and the other is, as I mentioned in a previous episode, I think my best friend really, really wants to play with me as another player. He really wants to do that. As I said, we haven't played together side by side in a very long time. We have played co-op in other games like Divinity Original Sin and Neverwinter Nights over the years. We played side by side on MMOs. In fact, this one we played a brother and sister team to like 25th level before I kind of got tired of being a controller and didn't want to play anymore. I also couldn't keep up with his schedule. He wants to play just too often for my taste. Just like his D&D, he plays D&D 3 nights, 4 nights a week, and then watches Critical Role the other 3 nights a week. That's just too much for me. I play this game every day, but not for 4 hours every day, right? So I think one of his main motivations, probably the main one, is that he wants us to play together as players on the same side of the screen. And I do too. I think that would be great and be fun. His other motivation is he's got a lot of cool character ideas and he wants to play those out. And he doesn't want to spoil them by like having them be NPCs or something. He wants to actually play them, which is understandable. But I think the other reason I don't think he would probably play he would probably DM us is because I think two of the other players are interested in possibly DMing at one point. One of them, the new player, actually said to me that her favorite thing to do in D&D is to DM. Now, right now she has a little baby, and the baby is 2, and she's not able to do it. But I think someday, when the kid's older and in kindergarten or whatever, and mommy can explain to the little girl, this is mommy's game night. You can't bother me, and you can't get mad. Whereas you can't really explain that to a 2-year-old because they don't understand. I think that she might be willing to DM, and she knows the rules, quite well, as I've already been able to figure out just from the first few sessions. And so she should be probably a very good GM. She's also a good role player and stuff, which helps for DMing. And then the other guy, who is actually a friend of my best friend, and I didn't know him until we started playing D&D. He's really awesome, and he actually offered to DM initially. I kind of wish I'd taken him up on it, but because no one but my best friend knew this guy, and the rest of us all knew each other, and everybody knew me except for the new guy that this my friend was talking about, we were all a little hesitant to be DM'd by someone none of us knew. And so I said, no, I'm going to DM. And so now my friend had suggested this other guy specifically because he knew I really would have rather not DM'd at this point. But it all worked out. He's an awesome player, and he seems like he's having fun, and he seems to be enjoying my campaign maybe more than anybody else. So he really seems to be enjoying it, and he's a fun player. And he knows the rules really well as well, and I think he'd make an awesome GM. And so hopefully one of the two of them will GM for us. But I think it'll be one of them before it's my best friend. I think the woman with the 2-year-old child who's a mom and has to deal with the little kid and is going to have trouble committing to GMing because she has to deal with the little kid is going to be a GM for us before my best friend does it. We'll see. Maybe not. I asked him some time ago. So now that you've been playing for a while, any urge to GM? I think I told this story. Because what I find is, and I've mentioned this before too, I think, when I've been playing a lot, I get the urge to GM, and when I've been GMing a lot, I get the urge to play. It's not like I'm never happy, right? It's not that sort of thing. It's not that, I've been GMing for 100 sessions, I play one session, I want to go back to GMing. No, it's not like that. It's more like after I've been playing for a long time, a year or something, I start to say, I could stand to GM, right? I think I might like doing that. And after I've been GMing for a year or two, I start saying, I really would like to play. And as I pointed out to one person on the D&D Beyond forums, I've never actually played as a player. I've never actually played 5th edition D&D. I've only ever DM'd it. I'd like to see how it plays sometimes, how it is to be on the player side of the screen. Okay, so there's a boss here we're definitely going to fight, because that's what we do. Let's go get him. Yeah, you're not going to be able to miss me. Isn't there another guy? Why isn't the guide attacking me? The librarian is very debuffed right now. This might be a Karist. I can't quite remember. It might be. And that takes care of the circle. Let's head out. Yeah, as I was saying to the one player who's new into D&D, I actually, if I'm doing a lot of DMing, I often like to play in a different game from the game. Oh, we're being ambushed. I often like to play in a different game from the game that we're that I'm DMing, right? So if I'm game mastering for champions, I'd like to play something else. So one of the things I really enjoyed when I was in college is I was jamming for champions, and then one of my friends would come home on a break, and he would do a short adventure in like Rollmaster. Man, I loved it. I think one of the reasons I love Rollmaster so much was that when I was playing Rollmaster, I was getting a break from GMing, and I would play that for a while, and then I would get the urge to GM and go back to playing champions and running it and GMing it, and so yeah, I enjoy both, um, but I think I don't know how much endurance I've got left. I think another 6 months to a year. I'm going to at least have to tell the group we won't be done with the campaign. I'm going to at least have to tell the group I need a break, and somebody else needs to take over. And if they want to run a different game or they want to run D&D, they can do it how they want. But I think I'm gonna probably in the next 6 months to a year need a break. I mean, I've already been going a year. I think 18 months is a long time. I don't want to necessarily want to stop the campaign without finishing it. I would love to finish it, but I think at some point I'm going to need a break. And for the first time, I'm starting to think about the concept of a break and when I might need one. Which, like 6 months ago, I wasn't thinking that. So, we're playing in 2 nights. I'm hyped. I can't wait to play. Still dying to see how they do in the Shrine of the Kuatoa, and I'm dying to see what happens with this guy's girlfriend and everything, and whether he's going to leave her in the astral plane. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in my campaign, and I don't want it to stop. But as a DM, at some point, I'm going to need a break, and I think that's probably going to be coming up in the next 6 to 12 months. All right, let's talk to Azuria. She says, I have felt the strange vibrations of these crystals ever since you brought them up from the ruins of Ornbega. They hold a great deal of energy and are wrapped in layers of spells. I would guess that they are some sort of tool used in the Circle's magical training. Each crystal is a repository of knowledge. I will study them and get my findings to Peter Stamets at once. I must tell you one more thing, Quintessence Slash. You appeared in one of my visions last night. I see much danger in your future, as well as much opportunity. I do not know if it is for good or ill. I believe we shall soon learn a great deal about the Circle of Thorns. Well, it's going to be for some good and some ill. The ill is going to be lots of fighting demons. The good is going to be we're going to deal with the Library of Lost Souls. But that'll happen next time, guys. Until then, I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes on the Rebirth server.